Cynicism. How is everybody today? And today my guest is Laura Ann Heaton Gray. How are you, Laura Ann?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. I have to get used to saying the two names. It's Laura Ann as opposed to Laura Ann. Anyway, please tell us a little bit about yourself to start.
Okay. Well, I work in the film industry primarily. I have a background in theater. I toured with a Broadway show, which led to building a bridge to get into the film industry. And I started off with being like a supporting character on a Lifetime pilot, and I fell in love with film. And from there, I decided that it was what I wanted to do, but from a storytelling side. And so I started learning the craft of screenwriting and directing and producing for film versus theater, which was what my background was. And so now I produce films. I also do commercial work, social media management, and all of that. Anything involving a camera, I do it.
Yeah, you're like me. You prefer being behind the camera as opposed to in front of the camera. Hold on one
Well,
second.
not necessarily true, but it's where I live.
It's what you prefer. It's the field you're happy. It's the area of the it's a technical field you enjoy, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump into one of your early works, one of the early projects you've worked on in the television and film industry, The Walking Dead. What was your involvement in that?
Okay, so for The Walking Dead, I worked with season 2 of The Walking Dead, which was quite a while ago. That season was the season that we were primarily on the farm, and we meet Herschel and all of his family. It was a great experience, very supportive cast and crew. It was a lot of fun. I was the production manager for that season.
Do you have any interesting stories from the from behind the scenes at all? Or
Well, it was always a lot of fun because there was so much going on with, makeup department, with people running around, doing their zombie thing and playing around with that. And there's a lot that goes on, and so there's not really a lot of time for, I guess, creating a lot of stories when you're a production manager, because you're zipping in and out, not necessarily in the middle of it the whole time, because you're handling, a lot of the logistics and getting people to and fro. And when does this person's flight come in? And, oh, their flight was canceled. Let's get them on the next one. Oh, so-and-so didn't get their paycheck, deposited directly into their account. Let's look into that. And so, as far as the creative side, I wasn't able to be involved in a whole lot of it.
right.
Probably most people wouldn't even know my face if they worked that season, because you rarely saw me on set because I'm always zooming around.
But you production manager is an important role in can you tell us a little bit more about your, even if it wasn't on the set, what were some of your responsibilities or some of your roles as production manager?
Well, like I mentioned, production management, we're making sure that we have all the crew that we
Right.
need. We're making sure that the actors, have everything that they need taken care of, as far as, their lodging, their meals, their pay, their flights, whole nine yards with that. Same with crew. And, uh, making sure that everything keeps moving smoothly. If there's a problem that arises, like a big decision that has to be made, then usually a production manager is in that meeting for deciding some of those things, helping with the budget, making sure that we're staying on track and we're not going over, and just keeping things moving.
Make sure everything goes smoothly. So, like, let's say there's something more needed for the production, and you have to check the budget, make sure nobody goes over, whether it's you or anybody else involved in the production.
Right, yeah. Checks and
Gotcha.
balances all around.
Okay, interesting. There was a show I think you were involved in. I forget, what was your role in. Hold on, let me bring up the poster. Resurrection.
Okay, I was actually talent on
Your
Resurrection.
talent.
I was talent. So it's a really sad story, actually, because you see me on camera, but they introduced a role at the end of, I think it was season 2 before we went into season 3. And I was cast to have a more prominent role in season 3, but they kind of introduced my character
Right.
with, out a lot of lines, but it was an introduction. And because they found out that season 3 was actually not happening and they were cutting the production, and season 2 was going to be it, then they completely cut out my lines,
Uh,
because it was pointless at that point to introduce a new character if we're not going to see their story. And so you see me in Resurrection that last season. I'm right there beside the preacher the whole time and interacting with the main characters, but you never actually see my lines.
uh, no. So when do they usually figure that out? Like some point before the end of the post production of season 2, I assume.
It varies
It
per
varies,
per show.
but in this show,
Sometimes,
in Resurrection, though.
right. Yes, they knew that before they ended the season, but I
Okay.
think that they only knew it like maybe I was talent, so I wasn't in on those conversations, but I believe that they knew it only like maybe a couple of months or 3 months before they were wrapping filming, that it was going to be the final season. And so they had to make a lot of decisions there about how they were going to wrap up the story.
Right. I hear
But
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
some shows, you can tell a lot of times with shows, when they wrap up a season, it feels like the end, or it could be the end, and that means that they kind of know that they're in limbo and they don't know if they're going to get another season. And so
Yeah.
they'll kind of wrap it up a little bit so that if it is the last season, then some of those storylines have wrapped up.
It's you never know. Sometimes they bring back shows that have ended just like movies. So anything is possible. They just have to, if that ever happens, they'd have to incorporate your character
Hmm.
and who knows? Who knows? I just want to bring it. Our network head Joe says, "Great to see you back, Abe. I had a little bit of a break. Thanks you for joining us in this network on the network this evening, Laura Ann."
Hi, Joe.
So okay, so also you were telling me you also do photography in addition to you're a writer, producer, director, actor, talent, but
I
you
do.
also do photography.
Hmm.
And you were telling me you were doing photography on the most recent Bruce Willis movie, right? Or the
Yes.
final, what was it, the final one? I know he stopped,
Hmm.
he's no longer acting. And hold on one second. Um Here is did you took this photo?
I did. I did. This was during a scene in one of the offices there at the Wire Room.
The Wire Room is the name of the movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I realize there's no poster, there's no trailer. Are they still in production? Are they up to post production yet?
Yeah, so they're in post production. We wrapped that actually back in January. With this, there's a lot of CGI. There's a lot of ADR to be done. I know with some of Bruce's stuff, there's a lot of post production for him as well,
Yeah.
because of his condition that has to be done. And so I believe that it is set to release this year, but they have not given any dates when we're going to be able to see that yet. But there is a lot of work to be done, and so I'm sure it's just taking them a while to get everything sorted out.
Gotcha. I'm gonna bring up this photo again. Do you I assume this is just the only one that's been released from the set of the film so far?
Right? Yes, that's the only
Okay.
one that I've seen that was released.
Okay. But you did like the what's it called, the promotional shots for like during production.
Hmm.
Okay. So is there a chance they might use your work in the poster, or is that all like are they allowed to? Do you have to give permission for that?
Well, I mean, my purpose is to capture, a lot of photographers who come in there are supposed to definitely catch a lot of like behind the scenes stuff. But my purpose was to come in and specifically capture Bruce Willis and Kevin Dillon,
Right,
and
Kevin
some of
Dillon.
the other characters for the purpose of using for the promotional stuff like the poster
Oh,
and
cool.
social media and IMDb.
Yeah, no, it's listen, being the photographer on the set is great, but also having your stuff used in the poster is probably
Oh
an
yeah.
honor in general, especially in a Bruce Willis film. Is this going to be his final? I mean, in terms of all the productions he's done and that he's closing. Sorry, that's my air conditioner. That he's no longer going to be acting anymore. Was this the final film he has filmed? Do you know that?
Yes, it is his
Wow.
final film. At that time, they did not know it was going to be his last film. They actually had a few other projects with that particular production company that were slated for later this year.
Yeah.
But then, while we were filming, we knew that, something was happening. And there was kind of like a diagnosis that was given, but it wasn't until after filming that we got the diagnosis of what it was, and he decided to retire. And so, yeah, it will definitely be his last film.
Wow. I mean, it's sad, but at the same time, you must be honored.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know that first day on set, seeing Bruce the way that I saw him, and I was so excited to get to work with him. I accepted the job not even knowing that I was going to be working with Bruce Willis or Kevin Dillon or some of these other very talented and known actors
Yeah.
until I got the call sheet for the first day of production, and my jaw just hit the floor because I was like, wait, what? This is who I am photographing? Are you serious right now? And it's funny because I almost declined the job because I had so much that was going on. And I'm so glad that I did not decline the job, because that would have been a really big bummer, to not have the opportunity to get to work with Bruce and, actually have conversations with this guy who, I've admired and watched his work ever since I was young. And I'd go to like Planet Hollywood and see all of his stuff there in Atlanta. And wait, what was the question?
Oh no, no, I was just saying, it must be an honor
Oh,
to
okay.
have,
Yes.
especially
Yes.
on his last film, as sad as the situation is,
Right.
it's
Yes.
something to have on your repertoire,
Right.
and that
Yeah.
people look at. Wow, that's Bruce Willis's final film,
Oh,
and it
yeah,
must be
definitely.
something that you'll never forget. Being able to work with Bruce Willis on his last film.
Right. Yeah. The point I was trying to get to was I had admired him all those years, and to be able to work with him was just a dream come true. But then
Yeah.
I actually left set that first day just crying because I saw things, of course, that were not right. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I was like, there's things that I can't tell you what I saw, of course.
Right, of course. No, I understand, and don't worry. Obviously, I don't want you to get yourself in trouble, so don't.
Right. But yeah,
But
I
obviously,
left that day
you were
just
vague enough. I think you were vague
crying.
enough. Yeah. Can I tell you something? Because it's upsetting, but at the same time, you could still feel honored
Oh yeah.
that And hey, listen, the fact that what they're able to do, even with his voice issue. I worked for. I'll just a side note. I worked for this rabbi whose father was an actor, and this
Hmm.
rabbi's father was called Man of a Thousand Voices. He did a lot of voice acting for a lot of like James Bond films and
Hmm.
like the original Murder on the Orient Express. And one of the films he did voices for, they lost all the audio from the film.
Oh
He
wow.
had to do the voiceover for every single character in the film.
Oh no.
So if they could do that, and this was like probably 30, 40, 50 years ago,
Hmm.
they could do this for one actor,
Oh yeah, and
especially now.
that's definitely a part of the process. Bruce's double actually ended up doing a lot of his stuff for him, and his condition is not just vocals either, and what he can vocalize. It's comprehension. It's understanding and being able to compute the direction that is given you, and being able to understand it well enough to then go and perform what your director is asking you to do. And yeah, it's much deeper.
Hold on, we got a question from my friend Brandon. Welcome to the network, Laura. Question: which of the duties in the entertainment business do you most prefer, in front of the camera or behind the scenes? And you could bring up examples if you want, whether it be from the Wire Room or anything you've worked on, even something we haven't brought up yet. I haven't, or you haven't brought up.
Yeah, to
Let me
answer the
let me leave it on
question.
screen if in case.
Yeah. So, duties within the entertainment business, I believe that I'm most fit as a director. I am able to take a script and be able to bring that to life in a different way. I am an actor as well, and I do a lot of on-screen stuff, and so I love that stuff. But there's a little thing inside of me. I've dealt a lot with my life with being very insecure with my body, and so I get a little insecure sometimes and self-conscious. And when I'm directing, I don't have that because it doesn't matter what I look like that day. I could show up in a t-shirt and jeans and my hair, all crazy, and I'm still going to do a great job at that versus feeling a little insecure as an actor as I can be sometimes. And so I feel like I am, most fit directing, producing, screenwriting, and being the creative in that to, take something that was in my brain and now on paper and then make it come to life. That's what I am best at, and what I feel that I'm most talented at. And I've won awards for that. I've been nominated with I primarily produce family friendly content and faith based content, and so I was nominated with the International Christian Film Festival as Filmmaker of the Year for both 2020 and 2021. A lot of my films have, won. I would say probably 80% of the films that I've produced have won in their categories at festivals. So I think that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm most fit for. Yeah.
Well, also as a director, you're in control of the scene, and to be
Right.
in control is something. I don't know. It's empowering. It's not like it gives you power, yes, but it's empowering. Also, you mentioned the Christian something about an award. What award was that? Or
The International Christian Film Festival. So the International Christian Film Festival is kind of the Christian equivalent of the Oscars.
okay,
And so I was nominated as Filmmaker of the Year with that festival in 2020 and 2021.
it's interesting you said that because I believe I told you I had somebody who's worked with you on my show already, Christy Crandall. And
Yes.
I believe she produced or directed and wrote a film, and I forgot what it's called. I don't know if you were involved in it or not. The one with the two boys during when there was slaves in America during the cotton picking, and before Lincoln freed them. I don't know if you were involved in that one. I don't know if you.
No, that was a project she did before we met.
Okay, because I know that won awards in that or in that
Hmm.
festival. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that
you
one ended up in Cannes, I believe.
Which films you worked on her with? What was it? Woke and Pretty Big Girl, which I think is also they're trying to make expand upon into a.
Yes. Yeah. So Woke was a 48-hour film. Well, no, it was a 72-hour film. And if you know anything about those contests, whether it's a 48 or a 72, it's a contest where you have 72 hours or 48 hours to write a script, shoot it, edit it, score it, and turn it back in before the deadline. And that was for an inaugural film festival that happened locally here in Huntsville. And for that festival, I directed and wrote that, and she helped to produce that. I believe she was the executive producer on that one. And we won Best Film, Best Acting, and Best Editing for our film. And then Pretty Big Girl is a concept teaser of
Right.
sorts that we created We spent a lot of money in order to create something really good to show investors in hopes of getting greenlit to produce that film, which we did that now, it's 4 years ago. And, we're still out there shopping that and trying to get it off the ground. But every festival that we entered the teaser for, the teaser category, it's won every festival that it's been in. We just, haven't had that open door yet to get the funding to produce the actual feature film.
Well, the premise is a important one, I'd say. Especially now when everybody's worried about body image and how they look, and whether it be realistic, unrealistic. I think I would like to see that get made. I do have some questions about that, but first I wanted to ask about the 72-hour project.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about how do you document for? I assume they have a structure about how you go about showing that you've done everything within those 72 hours. How do you go about doing that?
So what they do is for every team that registers to be a part of that festival, they put all of the teams' names in a like bowl or bag or whatever. And then they put all these different genres in another bowl or bag. And so they pick out, the teams, and I'm like, okay, Team Excelsior. And then from the genre box, then they'll pull out 2 different genres. And so it could be comedy, it could be drama, it could be horror, it could be musical, it could be, spoof film, whatever. And so you get to choose which genre out of the 2 that were pulled out for you. And then what happens is you have different requirements. Like for that particular festival, there had to be a superhero reference, either spoken or seen. And then you also had to have someone eating a taco on screen. And so they give you those elements. Oh, and there had to be a rose scene at some point. And so they give you all of these different elements to keep you from using something or a script or a film that you've already shot, because you have all these requirements that have to be seen or talked about or heard.
It's almost like a what do they call that? A fail safe to make sure you don't
keeps you honest.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I was just gonna say it. It keeps you from using something that you already had, because you have to use the elements that they gave you and the genre they gave you and all of that.
Right. So wait, so they pick out, you have a team already, or they pick out which names are part of the team? I feel like if you had a team already, it would be more organized if you already had a team.
Yeah, you have your team already set ahead of time. You already know who your director is, your writer is, who your DP is, who your grip electric is,
okay, good.
Your team of actors and all of that. And so once you get all of those requirements that are announced,
then they do the picking.
Right. Then we usually sit in a room afterwards and we're like, okay, so we got, what do we get? Mystery. We got mystery, and we have these actors here. So what story can we create using, these elements? What are everyone's ideas? And so we'll sit around for a couple of hours and just kind of bounce ideas off of each other and figure out, what the storyline is actually going to be. And then I will literally stay up all night writing the script, and everybody knows, wake up at 5:00 tomorrow morning, see what your role is, start memorizing your lines, check out what wardrobe that you need to bring and what time you're supposed to be on set. And it just goes from there. And I usually don't sleep the entire time.
Nice. I like that. Question: did you guys wing anything? Was there anything that was shown in the final cut that anybody sort of improvised at all? That film of Woke.
Yeah, I mean, because we literally just wrote the script overnight. When we get together and we start filming, then we're like, what would be really cool is if we added this here.
Right.
That would be awesome. And so that, there were some things that were definitely on the fly that we decided to do. Like the whole like taco thing, we made it funny and we moved it from where it was originally to a different spot when he's like consoling the guy who, his girlfriend just died. And,
He's
he's
like
like,
eating it.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he's like, oh, buddy, it's okay. You want a taco? And like, eats it and stuff. And it kind of broke that
Serious flow.
moment. Yeah, it was good. It was perfect timing. When we showed it at the festival, everybody laughed. It was good.
Yeah. So, but Pretty Big Girl. Now, I want to. There was an actress that Christy was telling me about who was in that, who she said was like she was in a scene with, and she was honored. Who, and I forgot who this actress was. Here, hold on, let me bring it up. She was telling me she was a known actress. Was it? Well, you're oh, right. You're also talented, Pretty Big Girl, in addition to being behind the scenes. I see.
Yes.
Right.
I originally did not at all plan to be the talent for the teaser, but we just really struggled to find someone for the role. And so
Right.
everybody was like, this is your story. You tell it. You be the talent. Even if you're not going to be the talent for the feature film, you can be the talent for the teaser. So,
And
everybody
they're
was
right.
pushing me for that. So.
They're right. I don't know if you're into horror movies much, but there was a Grindhouse did a movie called Planet Terror with Rose McGowan and Death Proof. They had like these two fake trailers, fake trailers. They're like concept trailers. There was
Yeah.
Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving was like a horror Thanksgiving movie, and then it was Machete, which was a concept trailer which got adapted into two movies, and Robert Rodriguez wants to do a third one. And you
Nice.
realize that they reshoot scenes from this concept trailer for the movie, and you realize it's not the same actresses or actors except for Machete, Danny Trejo, because you realize some of them are in a different setting. Like one scene you see him with two naked women in a what's it called, like a lake with a waterfall, and then you realize in the movie he's in a pool with Lindsay Lohan and her mother. So yeah, it worked fine. Like you don't have to be the talent in the movie, but if
Right.
if you didn't have somebody, so they make a good point. They made a very good point. And who knows, maybe you'll get a sequel or two sequels. I'm still waiting on the third Machete Kills. The Machete Kills the space as they tease. They always tease. They tease like a spin-off sequel at the end. Hold on. Timothy Malkin says, "Good stuff, Gabe and Laura, and hope you're doing awesome."
Hi, Timothy. You too. Have a great night.
So, and also, hold on 1 minute. You are. I forgot what you told me. I believe you said. What was your involvement in Murder at Hollow Creek? And it's quite a cast: Mickey Rourke, Jason Patric, Casper Van Dien, Kelly Price. I know a couple of people that work with Casper Van Dien, and yeah, that's just awesome. And Mickey Rourke is just, yeah.
Yeah, I was the script supervisor for Murder at Hollow Creek.
So for those who don't know, tell everybody what a script supervisor, what their duties are.
Script supervisor, you wear about 1,000 different hats all at the same time. You have to have at least 10 eyeballs to make sure that you catch everything that's happening all at once.
This is without special effects. This is without okay.
Yes, you just naturally have to have those 10 eyeballs. So a script supervisor, while we're filming, I am keeping track of what we've filmed. For each take, I am writing down, how far in the script that we got for that take, if there's anything wrong with that take, the reason why maybe we took another take, maybe someone's, pack, you could see it, or, the director didn't like the angle, or, actor messed up lines or something like that. I'm keeping track of the roll on the camera, so what the file number is, what the lens is that we're shooting on right now, how many feet or inches the camera is from the actor that's on screen at this given moment. I'm also keeping an eye on continuity. So if you close a door to a cabinet in the kitchen on the word Frank, and then the next angle you close it on the word hot dog, then there's going to be a big problem, and we've got to
Right.
go back and shoot that again and make sure that that action happens at the exact same time. If you take off your sunglasses in one take with your right hand, but then the next angle you take it off with your left hand, then
Like something's facing two different directions in the next take, and yeah.
right, yeah. So I'm keeping a track of that. I'm watching eye lines to make sure that when we move from one angle to another, those eye lines make sense. I'm making sure that we're keeping track of our 180. I am keeping track of so many different things at once. And, while I'm constantly writing and watching things, I'm calling lines if someone needs help. It really, the job is absolutely endless. And if you're not built for it, you will go an absolute sane. But it's a lot of fun because it's a little more relaxed as far as you're not in charge of anything. You're really an observer, and just
But you have
keeping
to
track of.
record. You sort of
Right.
are you're in control, but you have to record a little bit of everything. So it is like you have to be on top of so much.
Right.
Not
So,
yeah,
yeah. And when I say that, I mean, I'm not in control of,
not right.
what the direction and
Noting
stuff
it.
like
I mean,
that
take
is.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm
recording.
working, directly with the director. I'm, always by his side, making sure that everything is good, and, whispering in his ear things that, I catch, and all of that. But it's fun because I get to just enjoy watching and recording and keeping track of stuff without having to worry about when second meal is, when, all of the different things that you have to worry about when you're producing or directing. And so it's a lot of fun. And that film in particular, Murder at Holler Creek, it was a lot of fun because David Lipper is the director, and he was also a producer, and he is probably one of the best directors that I've ever worked with, to be honest with you. The atmosphere that he provides on set is very chill, very laid back. He is not, a director that gets an attitude or snippy. He makes sure that everyone feels comfortable, and it's just positive atmosphere. And he, I think, only hires people to work on his projects that have that same, positive attitude and upbeat to keep things moving, but still, there's no negativity that can be seen or heard at any given moment because everybody's so nice and supportive, yet professional.
I gotta say, I mean, I was so for everybody who didn't know, and I didn't even realize myself how many of the duties that the script supervisor is in charge of. And I'm like, it's like a stenographer, but for everything that happens, it's like it's beyond a stenographer. Like stenographer, you have to go to school for 3 years. You just have to have experience in, and you're in charge of so much more than in recording, so much more than the stenographer has to.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow. Like that's crazy. But I'm saying like but because if you miss something, that could be problematic. So, yeah, I just really that's amazing. So you're almost always on set when they're shooting. Yeah, always have to be there, I assume.
Oh yeah, I definitely have to be on set. If I'm not directly on set, then I'm at Video Village watching the screens, because really what's important is what the screen sees, not necessarily what the director sees or everybody else sees out here who's, on set watching the action taking place. What's important is what the camera sees, because that's, eventually what the viewer is going to see. So a lot of times I am at Video Village watching on the screen, and I have a walkie that I can send information to set to be like, hey guys, make sure on that next take that, she says this, word at this moment, and, stuff like that. And then usually the first AD will, or the director will approach them and let them know what they need to change.
So, question: have you ever had to be in two places, or that's no? Have you ever been in two places at once? Because to ask you if you had to be in two places at once, I think I already know the answer to that. Because you have to literally probably have to be everywhere when you're a script supervisor. Like you're probably all over the place. Like you have to make sure it's a joke, I guess you could say.
Well, you really are kind of, and a lot of times, everybody's running around. So even if I'm recording something, I may notice something like a prop is not quite exactly how it was at the beginning of that last take, and I might walk in and adjust that just a little bit to make sure it's where it is without bothering anybody else. All the while that I'm recording and taking pictures of everything to make sure that if we ever have to come back and film this scene because of whatever reason, then I have record of that. And then checking the lenses, checking with my second AC about what's going to be on the slate for the next take, and all of that. So yeah, as a script supervisor, you were literally everywhere.
So I actually have a question because I don't know if you're able to if it's an issue of crossing streams, so to speak. Let's say if you have to keep an eye on lighting, because cinematographer, I know that's their job. But the thing is, like if you realize there's an issue with the in the continuity and the lighting, I assume the
Mhm.
cinematographer keeps their eye on that. But let's say you're using natural light and the sun moved, and obviously, is that one of the things you're in charge of, or the cinematographer? Or are you allowed to step in and say something if you, let's say, the cinematographer didn't catch it? I mean,
Well,
I obviously don't want to step over the line with other people's duties. That's why I
right.
curious.
Well, I definitely, if I'm keeping track of, in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, so this scene has taken like 3 hours for us to film, and the sun is changing. So I can step in and be like, hey guys, so we're going to be losing light soon, or we're going to be losing that position that the sun is if we don't wrap up. And if we don't, then we're going to have to get some different lights in here to make sure that we keep.
Laura, and you cut out
So,
for a second.
sorry, somebody called me.
It's okay.
Um,
Just what were you saying? It's all good. What were you saying?
so I'll step in and I will, let them know that something either needs to change or they need to hurry up and finish because we're going to lose our continuity with our lighting if we don't hurry up.
So you can, but is that usually the cinematographer's what's the word responsibility though? Although, but you're able to, let's say he missed, like obviously he's not, or not he, they're not, on top of things. You're able to do that, is what you're saying. You're allowed to step in and you know
Well, I can't really step in
not
and be
step
like,
in.
hey, you need to change this, but
No,
I
not to,
can.
yeah,
Yeah, but I can, let them know, hey, we're
right.
going to have a continuity issue if something doesn't change.
Right. No, I hear you. I just wasn't sure. Obviously, you never know. Some people, if you're working with for a first time or even a second time or whatever, they might not be this, so pleasant with. Don't tell me how to do my job, but like obviously you're not. You're just, taking your,
Right.
taking
Well,
on
if
your role.
if you're any kind of professional and someone on set tells you, hey, this is going to be an issue, then you run with it and you figure out how to fix it. If you're not a professional, then only then will you have a problem, and that means that you have a bigger head than you probably should.
Yeah, I hear that. No, I agree. Okay, so wait, so also, hold on a second. You did a movie, or no? Hold on a second. What was it? Hold on. I'm on the wrong window. I just wanted to bring up. Oh, but I just wanted to ask you actually a question about what was it? Resurrection.
Yeah.
Did you get to work with Omar Epps or Kurt Woodsmith or Matt Craven?
I did work with Omar, and let's see, what is the name of the guy who played the preacher? Um, who played the preacher? Are you looking at that?
Let me
Um,
look. Let me look. I could actually check because, well, you were okay. So you were
so,
Nurse
so
Ashley.
the season finale of Resurrection of season two, um, almost everybody was in that scene.
Scene, right?
Yeah, so I pretty much worked with all of the main characters during that scene.
What was the preacher's name in the film? Pastor Tom Hale, I think that's what it was.
Probably.
Pastor?
They called him the preacher.
Preacher, Mark Hildreth, I think. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So no, I wasn't sure because I recognize those guys, Kurtwood Smith, Omar Epps, and Matt Craven from a number of things, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows Omar Epps from like Dracula 2000 and House.
Right.
Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And then so the one guy that was from that 70s show, um I'm
Kurtwood
horrible
Smith.
with
It's
yeah.
fine. That was Kurtwood Smith. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm horrible with names.
it's fine.
Um
I actually know him from Robo. I've seen him in RoboCop. That's where I remember him from.
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Predating that '70s show makes me feel old.
Yeah. So yeah, we were in two different scenes that day when the group first came to where the lady that was pregnant, and they're talking about what's going to happen to the baby and
Right.
all of that. And then as the day goes on, then we come back to the night where we're there at night and at the house, and literally everybody was there. All of the main cast was there, and so it was a big deal. We had to be on set every single day at like midnight, and we worked all the way through the night, and this was like in January. And so it was like, I think it was like 10 degrees outside, and we had all these scenes were outside. And so we had PAs like throwing coats on us, and then as soon as they would yell rolling, we would take off our coats and throw them off to the side, and the PAs would be running and grabbing them in the bushes and stuff. And so it was freezing. We were outside for like 3 days for that one scene, all night long, from like midnight until the sun come up, because it was supposed to be at night. And we had like packs of like the hand warmers and stuff like stuffed in our shoes and like in our clothes and like in our hair and all of that kind of stuff. It was absolutely insane how cold it was.
God, I hope the PAs, did what what a mother would do to her kid for when on the plane when the mask comes down. If they, put it on yourself first and then put it on the baby. Like they should. Hopefully, they're dressed warm enough that they won't freeze. Like trying to help the talent.
Oh yeah, they were all out there in like the big bubble suits that made them look like big marshmallow men and stuff. And so yeah,
It's hilarious.
definitely. There were times where like somebody lost a coat. I don't know how that happens, but some of like the
They
extras,
threw it somewhere.
yeah, like some of the extras would, they were also taking their coats off and throwing them, and so they somehow would get mixed up of where their coat was. And there was a PA that I remember took off her coat and gave it to another background actor that was there, and so that was really cool. And then next you see her, she's in a big bubble suit as well. So
Maybe one of the actors or extras took two coats because they were so cold and they didn't tell anybody. Who
this is
knows?
true. Anything can happen.
Or they wanted a souvenir. Brandon asks, Laura, if you could direct any film and budget was no option, what would that film be? Let me leave that open.
Oh my! So I have a oh, there's two.
Okay, cool. You can take your time.
However will I choose?
You know what? You know what? Just say both. Say both.
Okay, so one is a movie, a script that I wrote called Seven Trials. It's a period piece. It involves witchcraft,
Okay.
where a young teenager, older teenager, young lady, comes across some people doing some chanting and stuff in the woods, and they find out that this girl saw them, and the people of this group that she saw are our lawyers and our judges and our doctors and people who own a lot of the land in the area, high society people. And so they tell her that she either has to join into their what they're doing, or they're going to blackmail her in order to keep their secret. And she denies that she is going to agree to that kind of thing, and that she's going to expose them. And so she gets accused of witchcraft, and they put her through 7 different trials to prove that she's a witch, but really it's to, you know, punish her and to what is the word, when you're trying to just do something to somebody over and over again, you know, harass her and all of that kind of stuff. But she comes out every single one of them until, you know, they finally expose themselves for what they're doing. And so it's a period
End up throwing
piece.
themselves under the bus or carriage.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. And so with this, it I say it's faith-based. It is to a degree. Anytime you're,
It's religious or it's
yeah,
religion oriented.
right. And anytime you're working with witchcraft and, you know, a period piece, you know, a
Black
religion,
magic, it defies
yeah,
religion. Yeah.
religion was a part of those times. And so naturally it's going to be, you know, revolving around some faith issues. And so she relies on God to save her from all of these different trials, and what eventually leads to them exposing themselves. And, you know, we find out that even her mother is part of this group, and it's absolutely crazy. My dream is to have Claire Holt in this movie. It's been my dream from the very beginning that she plays the antagonist. We'll see if that happens.
You
But
mean
yeah,
the head of the cult, the head of the cult.
yes, yes. I think she would do an absolutely amazing job at that role. And it's my dream to be able to produce that, but with budgets on period pieces, you know, they're astronomical. You know, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars to produce something like that. And I haven't, you know, produced myself anything along those lines yet. And so I've, you know, just kind of kept it on the back burner and until I get there myself to be able to produce something like that. The other one is a musical. And that musical is called Surrounded, and it's about teenagers and the struggles that they go through on a daily basis that people don't realize or think about. And there's, you know, a group on the campus that recognizes, you know, as young people, we're going through so much, that people don't, you know, parents don't, other people, they just don't understand what we're going through. And so they make it their goal to reach out to the people on campus to help them find peace and hope and encouragement and just be a positive force on campus to everyone who is there. This one is a faith-based piece as well. Our goal is to have Michael W. Smith actually on that one. If you know anything about Christian music, he's been, you know, an icon of Christian music for decades and still is. And so a lot of his early music definitely had a lot of storytelling in his songs. And so we've taken a lot of those songs and incorporated them into the script. And it's kind of a movement of sorts, because we're going to have a book that is in tandem with the movie that we can send out to churches to have youth groups and college groups to do this study as they watch the film, to help them to have, you know, courage to help you know, their peers and help them to you know, find love, and that's, you know, in God.
I myself, as somebody who struggled with religion, always admire something that takes the wholesome approach from religion as opposed to the judgmental, condescending, degrading approach. And that I admire, that I like. And also, you know, it's interesting. One of them is a horror mystery, you know, almost like a horror thriller mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And the other, and I guess you could say age, you know, like a old time crime. I guess you could also call it a crime story, the first one. And this
Right.
one is like a drama set in modern day, but it's
Mm-hmm.
relevant to any school where there, or any community where, because there's always going to be youth that struggles, whether it be an overwhelming amount or just a select few black sheep of the group, or of the neighborhood's kids. And yeah, I've been
Right.
there, so I always admire and look forward to stories like that being, whether it be told in a book or told on film, told on television. It's important to have books that tell these stories, but it's also important to visualize it for people, because
Right.
not everybody reads books, and sometimes visualizing it, sometimes reading it can be impactful. Sometimes visualizing it, people want to use their imagination when they read, but it's important to visualize it, because sometimes fear is a great motivator.
Hmm.
It can be dangerous, but also being great motivator. And sometimes, seeing something that is real, that scares you, to open your eyes. It's important. It's very important. And I feel like a lot of people hate what they don't understand.
Hmm.
It's for things that can be understood. A lot of people are, and a lot of people just choose not to understand things that's right before their eyes, that they're given the opportunity, and they dismiss it. And because they're afraid that it'll challenge their beliefs, and that scares.
Hmm.
Sometimes challenging somebody's beliefs is the scariest thing you could do to them, for them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's not, but that's not your fault. And obviously that could be somebody who's not religious, or somebody who's not, or is religious. It doesn't have to be faith oriented, but it can be. And
Hmm.
sometimes, the extremists or the fanatics can't sometimes don't see how their ways could be more damaging to a child or a teenager, and they have to open their heart, as opposed to hardening their heart and saying this is the way it is, or you're punished, or you're gonna pay, or you're going to hell, or whatever it is. So I feel like it's important to have a softened heart, or an open mind, than
Hmm.
the opposite. I just want to bring up, Brandon said Claire Holt was amazing in the originals, very solid actress, and that would be a great role of yours. Be a great in shoot, and that would be great in that role of yours you spoke of. You know what? I agree, and also I just wanted to quickly mention, I was thinking of like a old time Regina George, like Regina's Georgina, like some old version of the name. Maybe like use a little Mean Girls joke, like reference
Right.
in there. I feel
Well,
like that would be
this
an interesting approach. Like you
this
could do that.
this particular character's name is Lorelai.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I've
Yeah.
heard that name before, and I like it.
Yeah,
And
it's one
that's
of my
Claire Holt's
favorite
character.
names. Yes, hopefully one day. So with Seven Childs, like as I was writing it, I always saw it as a, in the style of the Hunger Games, with all that they're going through with that kind of stuff, and so very energetic, and just one thing right after another, and doesn't really let up until the end. And
Yeah.
I think it's a film that, whether you believe in God or not, it's a film that you would watch, because it is a period piece, and tons of action, and everything that happens with that. And I've let a few people read the script. I've sent it off to a few readers and stuff, and the notes that I get back are just wow. Everybody's like, "This is crazy, amazing. Are you going to sell this? What are you going to do with this? Because it's amazing." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to sell it, because I want to make bank on my story that I wrote." So,
Agreed.
yeah. And with the surrounded musical, it totally different um, theme with all of that, in that the whole purpose of the film is to encourage people to not be afraid to, in today's world, when we have teenagers who are constantly putting each other down because they're so insecure with themselves, as they're growing and coming into their own and trying to understand who they are. They feel like the mean girls. They want to blow someone else's flame out, because they think it's going to make their own flame brighter. And that's the culture that our teenagers live in today. Well, I mean, even when we were growing up, but I feel like it's worse today than it ever was. But just, to encourage students to not be afraid to just love people and help people, because that's what love is. And I mean, why worry yourself all the time with putting other people down when you can just love and accept them,
Can I tell you something? As I've been bullied since I was 5 years old, so I wonder what goes. I wonder to myself, with all the effort people put into hurting somebody, like when they could help people, it
Exactly.
blows my mind. It's actually your analogy was great. The whole blowing out somebody's flame, because I love the one that sort of like is from the other side. Like don't 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 put your flame out trying to brighten somebody else's day. Well,
Right.
you can brighten somebody else's day, but don't take away from your flame to brighten somebody else's flame. Just feed it and grow with them, or help them grow. But don't put out your own flame to brighten somebody else's.
Exactly. When you have two candles side by side and you put their flames together, then that flame gets a little bit bigger and a
Yeah,
little bit brighter. And so instead of blowing out someone's flame, just add your flame to theirs
yeah,
and you have the perfect day.
yeah. That's one of that's those are some of my favorite analogies because they're simple, they're straightforward, and they're meaningful and they're powerful.
Right.
And I just before our last, like, I just also wanted to ask you. You were telling me you also have some other projects coming up. I want you to bring up.
Yeah,
You were telling me about.
did we talk about stalling seasons with string?
No. Yes. Yes. Bring that up, please. Yeah.
Okay.
You texted me a few names, and I'll. Yeah. Please go talk about it, please. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Starling season with
Yeah,
string.
I've done like three other ones today, and so I'm fuzzy on like who did I tell what. So Stalling Seasons with String is a family friendly feature film. We created a teaser concept for that, and it's in the film market right now and the festival market. And a lot of that stuff won't even come out until the end of the year or next year. But we are going to be starting a crowdfunding platform in August to get that feature film funded so that we can actually get it greenlit so that we can move forward with production for that. And with that project, it's called Stalling Seasons with String. And it's about the family dynamic of loss and grief and how different family members deal with that, whether it be anger or denial or all the different things. And,
Emotions. Yeah.
yeah, all the different emotions and stages of grief that one goes through. And it it's funny because when I finished the script for Stalling Seasons at first, when it was just a short film, I was like, this is so dark and gloomy and sad. But I had another script that was actually a comedy, but it has the same theme of a family dealing with the death of a family member. And so I was like, if I merge the two together, then we can make a feature film out of this. It would lighten the mood a little bit.
A dark
And
comedy, maybe.
well, a little bit, yeah. I'm kind of calling it a dramedy. um, but yeah, so we have the wife who was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer, and the son is just angry because he wants her to fight, even though doctors are like, you can go through chemo, you can go through radiation, you can try all of
Telling her
these
it's not
different
going to help.
things.
They
Right, it's not going
some
to help
definitive answer. Yeah.
at all. Your days really are numbered, and all you can do at this point is just live life as best as you can. But he's angry, he wants her to fight anyway, and so anger is what he resorts to. Then we have the husband who is in just shock pretty much the entire time. He doesn't know what to do. He really has no real emotion because he's just in shock the whole time, at least early on. And then we have the daughter who there's a scene where she asked her father, she's like, when is mommy going to die? And he looks out across the yard and he sees a tree and he says, you see the leaves on the tree? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, when those leaves start to fall from that tree, then we'll know that the time will probably be soon. And so she's in denial in that she thinks that if she can scoop up all those leaves from the ground and tie them back on the tree, then this is going
Wow.
to stall her mom's death and keep it from happening.
That
And so,
the naive, ignorant, that innocent ignorance,
right, yeah. So it's very touching. There's like a storm that comes, and mom is upstairs, almost dying, and there's a storm, there's a lightning, there's wind and craziness going on, and he looks out the window and he sees her on a ladder tying these leaves on the tree, and he goes out and he pulls her off the ladder and he's like, why are you doing this? And she's like, so mommy doesn't die. And so it's a very, very dramatic
Right.
moment there, but it's a great story, and the comedic aspect that we took and put into the script is, so she
Don't
wants
give
to
away too much. Don't give away too much.
okay. Well, okay. I can say that the mother wants to prepare her family for her departure, and so she brings in somebody to help, to teach them the
And it gets
different
awkward.
things,
Like,
yes, that need to happen. And in the
like
teaser
all
we
the
see,
moms, like the cleaning the dishes and the,
right,
oh
yes.
god.
So like in the teaser, she has them all in the kitchen and she opens a dishwasher and she's like, this is a dishwasher, and they're all like,
Uh
duh. And so, a lot of that funny stuff going on.
yeah. So by the when you said the father, he's very dads are usually stubborn. So I feel like he's the one not and the ones that don't show as much emotion as everybody else in the family.
Right, yeah.
So that seems like it's like using analogies or metaphors to explain stuff to the naive child.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah. I think he's hiding a lot inside, that he feels like he has to be the strong one and therefore he
yeah,
can't show that emotion that he's feeling.
yeah. I hear that. You also mentioned what other projects did you bring up to me? Where there was murder. Oh wait, you already mentioned it was discussed Murder Hollows Creek, Wyram. I think I think the ones you mentioned to me we already went through. So now that you've brought up, is there if there's not anything else that you could come off the top of your head, I would like you to share your social media pages, any websites you have, and also the crowdfunding page if it's up yet. But also, I believe you have a Facebook page for.
Yes.
So
So
please list everything that you would like everybody to follow or anybody to follow, or yeah.
yeah, so Stalling Seasons with String does have a Facebook page that you can go and like, and keep up to date with news and updates, casting calls for when we get there, and of course the crowdfunding platform will be posting there. We also have Excelsior Studios has a Facebook page. I cannot actually access my own Excelsior Studios business page because I was hacked, and my personal page is connected to my business page, and Facebook doesn't care. But you can still follow that page and keep up to date on things that are happening, because I can post to that page from Instagram. So if you message me there, I won't see it, but you can check out the Excelsior Studios page to keep up to date with different things that are going on. I'm also on Musically. I mean, not Musically. I'm also on TikTok, which was Musically. And my handle on there is Musically Laura Ann. There I have about 45,000 followers and almost 2 million likes on that account. Would love to have more, people who are following me on there. I post a lot of storytelling and different stuff on there that's just a lot of fun. That's like kind of like my fun. It's like my therapy, to get on there and do fun stuff on TikTok. Of course, I have an IMDb, which is Laura Ann Heaton Gray. And yeah.
I actually have one last question before we end. Would you ever consider like giving a workshop or in terms of like in filmmaking or storytelling? Because like you seem very involved in like you seem to like to like using TikTok in general. I mean, obviously, but I'm saying like you have a lot of experience in different fields, but you're also well versed in a lot of this. Would you ever consider that? I mean, in the long run, at some point,
Oh, I
like
do that. I do
you
that
do that.
already. I
Oh,
do.
really? That's great.
So I have a lot of things actually that I do that with. I teach acting classes here at the studio. I
What
teach
studio?
Excelsior
Oh, Excelsior. Okay.
Studios. And then also we have Huntsville Indie Filmmakers, and that's a group that I manage, and we teach filmmaking to people who are kind of hobbyists or want to get into the industry. And for both the filmmakers and the actors, give them the tools and the knowledge that they need to be successful. I go around to different festivals doing seminars about film. I have a couple of different opportunities that are coming up, and I actually in November, I'm going to Uganda to teach about 700 different college age and young people filmmaking there for 3 weeks. And so I'm very excited about that.
That's amazing. I kudos to you. Wow. Anyway, Laura Ann, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm gonna follow your any I'm gonna check out the movies when they come out. Or anyone Wire Room and Murder at Hollow Creek. But let's be in touch and keep me updated. And have a great night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again.
Definitely. Thanks